Well, it's very good to see you all tonight. And Kemasiri has introduced very well this talk. Yeah, and the main idea of me sharing this is, in a way, is well, for me, has been a very how to put it. It has been a very momentous occasion, to be able to do this. So I've been reflecting indeed for a few years about this teaching, and applying different aspects of it in my own life. And it feels to me like I have been giving an offering to the Sangha in Nottingham. So it's something that is very close to my heart, and I'm very happy that I've been able to share with you. I really have enjoyed doing them, and I'm also very happy that it's coming to an end tonight. And I'm going to, just to be with it. So something important that I have said in the running of this talk is that you need to make effort, but at the same time you need to create a space after exertion, just to be with the fruits of your effort. So I'm sort of looking forward to be with the fruits of my efforts as well. So well, tonight, as Kemasiri said, we are going to be looking at wisdom. So there are different ways, different approaches to this quality. As I wrote in the blog for tonight, wisdom is very often the main quality associated with the Buddhist path. Yeah? So when people think of the Buddha, they probably think of a wise person. Yeah? And there are different ways in which we can approach that. Well, tonight we're going to be looking particularly at the 3 levels of wisdom that some of you probably know already. And for some of you, it might be more of an introduction. But then let's start by doing a bit of a recap. And let me start by sharing my screen with you. And then, yes, so what we have in the screen is something that we've been filling up. This diagram is something that we've been filling up during this series. So as Kemasiri just said, we started looking at faith in the first week. And gradually, at the same time that we've been introducing these qualities, we've been introducing or invoking the protection, if you want, of some figures, some Buddhist figures. So a couple of Buddhas, the Buddhas of the South, the yellow Buddhas, Ratnasambhava and Mamaki. Then Vigor or Virya, and the Buddhas of the North, or the green Buddhas. So that's Green Tara and Amoghasiddhi. And then mindfulness, which is a central quality, as Kemasiri just said as well. And we were invoking there the protection of Vairochana and Akashadat Vishvari. And in the west of this particular arrangement, we have the red Buddhas, those Amitabha and Pandaravasini, and the quality of Samadhi and concentration. And tonight, we are looking at wisdom or prajna, and the Buddhas that we are invoking are those of Akshobhya and Lochana. So there are a few associations with Akshobhya, but the main one that I want to highlight is that of hatred. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing because hatred is one of the emotions that we've been looking at during this series, and I like what Bodhinaya just said about puya being an antidote to hatred. Yeah. So and puya in a way is an expression of love. Yeah. So the antidote par excellence against hatred is love. So there is a relationship between these two sides of this diagram. Yeah. Love is the main quality of Amitabha. It's the Buddha of love. And Akshobhya is not the Buddha of hatred, but it's a Buddha that transforms hatred into wisdom. So it's a very interesting association. Actually, our community here upstairs in the building of the Buddhist Center in the Lace Market, we are 5 guys living together in a community that the name that was given to us was that of Avirati. And Avirati is the pure land of Akshobhya. And Avirati means, can be translated as sheer delight. Yeah? So it's actually, there is a lot of joy, there's a lot of energy that gets channeled by this pair of figures here. I want to do something a bit more. So we have that diagram that we've been feeling, but when that figure, you know, those different points in that diagram get complete, we get something like this. So let me show you this. So this is what we call the 5 Buddha Mandala, and it's an arrangement that I have mentioned as well throughout this series, nonetheless, because I've been calling upon these figures. Yeah? So this is a more traditional disposition of or arrangement of these figures. So we usually have the East is at the lower part, this bidimensional representation. It's at the lower part of the arrangement. Yeah. But in our previous arrangement, we started with the yellow Buddhas, and then we moved to the green Buddhas. We look at the white Buddhas, then the red ones, and finally today the blue Buddhas. Something very interesting to say about these figures is that though they are represented in 2 dimensions, this is a 3-dimensional form, yeah, to look at, to imagine, to visualize, to call upon in your memory. And it's, I'm not going to say much more about this. I just want to remind you that we have done already a series of talks on all these figures, particularly on the male Buddhas. But the female Buddhas are equally as important, you know, as the male Buddhas. So I'm going to put, I forgot to do that last week actually, to put in the chat box the links to the talks that we have given already. And there are a few talks that I have used as a reference to this series. But also I want to show you this figure. So some of you probably have seen this kind of symbolism around. So this is a representation of Achovya and Lochana, those two figures, the male and female Buddhas of the East. And they are in sexual union. Yeah? So this particular posture is Japjom. It's called Japjom. But this is not sexual union as we know it, you know, heterosexual sexual union as we know it in our human bodies, our human flesh. Yeah? So this is a lotus throne here, and the lotus throne represents another level of consciousness or awareness. Yeah? So actually, these 2 figures together are a symbol of wisdom, of prajna. Usually also the female Buddha is called the prajna. So the word prajna can have the different uses. And last week we were looking at the use of prajna with a small p. Yeah, so we are looking tonight as prajna as with capital P. And I'm going to say a bit more about that in a moment. So last week also we completed this symbol. Yeah, that is, sorry, let's go here first. So this symbol of the double Vajra. He wants to go there. This symbol of the double Vajra, yeah, and we were looking particularly at the intensifiers. Yeah? We were looking at 5 qualities coming together actually, but that we've been introducing through this series. So starting with Chanda, then Adimoksha. So Chanda is that emotional engagement. and adimoksha is that sort of a settled interest. And we were looking at sati as the quality either of the quality of the mind that is able to pay attention, to focus, or the mind that can direct all the powers of concentrations to one point. Yeah? And then we look at samadhi in this area, and now prajna in this. So prajna and samadhi can go with sort of a transcendental level, or a more sort of a mundane day-to-day experience level. So yeah, this is a couple of, want to show you a couple of other representations of that double Vajra or Vishva Vajra as well. That's another way of talking of it. So sometimes, actually something I wanted to say about Akshobhya is that Akshobhya is the eldest of all the Buddhas. So he's the first one of appearing in the mandala of the 5 Buddhas. So sometimes you get the center of the Vishva Vajra in blue, the blue color of Akshobhya. In this case, it has the 3 colors of the 3 jewels. I really like this presentation because of that. It has at the center the 3 jewels. And something as well that I mentioned at the beginning of this series was that of looking at our mandalas. So this series is called the Mandala of Personal Development, and we've been trying to look at what is that at the center of our mandalas. So when we take refuge, when we go for refuge, we try to put the 3 jewels at the center of our mandala. And you have the colors of the other Buddhas. So you have Ratnasambhava, Amitabha, Mogassiddhi, Vairochana. But something that I really like when I was looking at symbols is this one in particular. So it's a bit more similar to the one that we've been feeling in terms of the colors throughout the series. But it's one that is embroidered. And I really like this because it's, in a way, it brings out a bit more that sense of there is a texture that this symbol has. It's a texture. It's something that you can touch, you can feel. It has a feel to it. And this is indeed a very, very, very important symbol for me. I have a few representations of the double Vajra upstairs in my bedroom here in Avirati community. Let's see what is here. Yes, and I wanted to show you this. So talking a bit more about texture, that piece of cloth that Padmasaki, Bodhinaya, Chantika, Kemasiri, and me are wearing tonight around our necks have this symbol in it. So again, this is a 3 jewels, with 3 drops or tears, different colors are the 3 jewels. And behind it is a fire, the fire of purification. So that's also a very important symbol that we've been looking at in this series, that of the fire, heat, the heat that comes from our practice, tapasya, the fire that transmutes samsara into nirvana, as we say in our dedication ceremony. And we did actually recite the verses of the dedication ceremony on the first night of this series. I think I'm going to stop sharing there. I think I got a couple of, yeah. Okay, I'm going to come back to a couple of images in a moment. Great. So when we are looking at this mandala, this figure, I wanted to show you also this. This is another representation of that double Vajra or Vishva Vajra. So this is a 3-dimensional one. Is one that belongs to me as well. And again, it has a bit the principle of that big Vajra that I showed you a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you can see it. It's in the shrine. It's here. It's at the feet of the Buddha. Yeah. And I was telling you about the two opposite streams of the Vajra, yeah, representing different tendencies that come together. Yeah. So this one has four different strings that come together. So this symbol as well is a symbol of total integration. Yeah. And this is a very important symbol. I'm going to come back to this in a moment as well. So I'm just going to say something very quickly. So that quality that Akshobhya has of transforming hatred into wisdom is something that all the other Buddhas do. Yeah. So I really encourage you to look at, to try to look at the series of talks that we have given. I'm going to do something now before I forget, because that's what happened last week. So I'm just going to put that in the chat, and there are a few talks that I'm recommending you to look at if you want. Not right now, please, because we are just starting. Yes, and tonight we're talking about the tree of wisdom. Yeah, so we had that poem beautifully read by Padmasaki. Thank you very much, Padmasaki. I really enjoy listening to the poem from you. And this is a poem written by Bhante about the night of the enlightenment. Yeah, so the night when Gautama became the Buddha. Yeah, that crucial point in the history of humanity. And it's crucial, especially for us, you know, without that night, without that historical event, we wouldn't be here tonight, you know, as simple as that. If that individual didn't have that insight into reality, we wouldn't be here tonight. So that's another word that we can translate prajna into, insight. Yeah? So wisdom and insight are very big words. Right? So maybe there are words that can put us off sometimes. Yeah? Maybe they feel a bit too far away from our experience. But prajna is something that is very accessible. So another word that I want to use, maybe I'm going to use a bit more than the other two tonight, is that of understanding. Yeah. So prajna can be translated as understanding. And that's something that probably you can relate very quickly to, yeah, in your own experience. So we, the most we practice, the most understanding there is of our strength and our weaknesses, our limitations, you know, and our potential as well. So experience is very important for us in this journey, yeah, that we have undertaken. But indeed, the main symbol that I want to explore tonight is that of the tree. Yeah. So let me go back to share with you from what we have done, this symbol that we have been exploring in this. Let me just change this a bit. Okay. One of the symbols that we've been exploring in this journey is that of the tree. Yeah. Particularly this tree, the poisonous tree of the 6 kleshas. Yeah. So at the roots of this tree, there is avidya, or ignorance. Yeah. And the trunk of this tree are views or opinions, drishtis. That's the word that we use. It's a Sanskrit word. And then there is mana, or conceit, vishikitsa, or doubt, pratiga, or ill will, and raga, or attachment. Yeah. And then you have all the fruits that come from each of those branches. Yeah. And these are ways in which our energies get expressed. Yeah. By the way, the word avidya, for example, is another word that can be used in relation to wisdom. Yeah. So a means a negation in Sanskrit or in Pali as well. And vidya, the word vidya, can be translated as wisdom as well. So vidya literally means seeing clearly. Yeah. So it's to do a lot with seeing, and that's a very important sense that is used a lot in Buddhist metaphors. That of seeing clearly. In those links that I just put in the chat box, there is a very beautiful talk that Chantika gave a few months ago on the symbolism of trees. So I recommend you to watch that as well. I'm not going to go there too much in depth tonight, but I just want to evoke again that image of the Buddha on the night of enlightenment. Yeah. So this figure representation here. So this is the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree, yeah, and doing this gesture. So last week we were looking as well at mudras, yeah? And this is what we call the Bhumish Parshad mudra, yeah? Touching the earth mudra. And with this mudra, the Buddha is just invoking the goddess earth to give testimony about his right to sit on the Vajrasana. Yeah? So he's sitting on something that is called the Vajrasana, the diamond throne. Yeah? And this figure that you see here, to the other side of the Buddha, is Mara. Yeah? So this is the last defeat of Mara on the night of enlightenment. And something that I really like in the point that Padmasaki read is the relationship between the Buddha and the moon. So last night was the full moon of April. Yeah, the pink moon, I think was. I couldn't see it, but I've been told that it was pink. And so that relationship between the Buddha and nature is very important. It's very important in Buddhism. Yeah. So the major events of the Buddha's life happened around a tree. Yeah. So the tree is a very important symbol. Yes, and the tree in a way represents something similar to the Vajra. Yeah. So the roots of the tree connect us with the earth, and the branches of the tree connect us with the sky. Yeah. So that union of opposites. Yeah. So that's very important, and in a way that's what we try to evoke. Yeah, that sense of integration. So let me finish showing these images to you with this one. So as much as we have a mandala of the 5 Buddhas, we can have a dark mandala. Yeah. So this is the last image that I'm going to share with you tonight. So it's the dark mandala. So that tree that I showed you a moment ago with avidya at the roots is a simplified version of this. So in the Buddhist tradition, I don't know if you have heard this idea of the Inuit people, that they have a lot of names for snow, yeah, or to name the color white, yeah, the white of the snow. But in the Buddhist tradition is similar in the sense that we have a lot of different words to refer to mental states. Yeah. So the kleshas, that list of the kleshas is quite long. I talk about the 6 main kleshas, but we have a list of another group of secondary kleshas. So here we try to put this together. Yeah, so I'm borrowing this from one of the teachers in Triratna, Kamalashila, and you have in black, you have the kleshas or the poisons, and in red, you have the positive qualities, yeah, associated. And similar to what I was saying before, they are associated with a Buddha, a particular Buddha and a particular kind of wisdom as well. So this is for the benefit, especially of those of you who are going to rewatch this talk and can pause your video later on. Yeah? So what is the point of all this that I'm showing you at the moment? But I think it's very important that we identify what are we working with, the raw material that we're working with. So I want to read you another poem this time from William Blake, which is a poet that I really connect with. And I really like this poem because, in a way, describes that tree that I just showed to you with all the kleshas. You know? And this tree is in a very popular work from Blake called The Songs of Experience. So I don't know if you have heard of the Songs of Innocence and of Experience. And it's a very, again, you know, this sort of a pair of opposites, yeah, innocence and experience. And it's very beautiful the way that Blake reflects on those two qualities. So this is coming from the Songs of Experience. And apparently these were songs. So they weren't written as poems, they were written as songs. And at the time of Blake, some people could sing them. Yeah. So the poem is called A Poison Tree. I was angry with my friend. I told my growth did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not. My growth did grow. And I water it in fears, night and morning with my tears. And I soon it with smiles and with soft, deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night, till it bore an apple bright. And my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine. And into my garden stole, when the night had veiled the pole. In the morning, glad I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree. So those fruits that I show you, you know, from those branches are like that apple, you know, that the poison tree is not a tree that doesn't produce fruits. It does produce fruits. And actually, we are going around giving those fruits to others, consciously or unconsciously. I really liked something that Alan Silito says about hatred. He says that most of us are small-time haters. Yeah? So we are not a big menace to society, but we probably give a hard time to people around us, the people that are immediately around us. So hatred is something that we need to work with. You know, in a way, all those different emotions that I've been exploring with you in the last few weeks are emotions that are born from hatred. Yeah? So how do we do that? Well, we do that through cultivating wisdom. Yeah? And there are three ways in which we can cultivate wisdom. I'm going to finish with this. So the traditional list of the three levels of wisdom is that of listening, reflecting, and contemplating. Yeah? So the listening is something very important for us. Yeah, is in a way listening nowadays. Remember that the Buddhist tradition is an oral tradition. Yeah? Everything has been passed on through listening, yeah? through memorizing. Yeah? We are not going to have time tonight, but a couple of weeks ago, I played a track to you from the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, and that's somebody reciting the Pali verses of the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, and that's something that the bhikkhus, you know, those who are traditionally ordained within the Buddhist tradition, do. They listen to the teachings and they memorize that, and at some point they pass that on to others. And that's a very important aspect of the Buddhist tradition. We in Triratna, we are a living tradition as well. So Triratna is not just about, you know, centers and events online and, you know, what you have, what you have met so far. I don't know your level of experience. You probably have a bit more of experience as well. But there are aspects of Triratna that have a lot to do with the oral tradition, you know. People working together, people living together. Yeah. There is a lot that is passed on in that live contact between people. Yeah. But also, you know, that's the main way we nowadays we can include in this area of listening just being able to access information, you know, or to access content. Yeah, information is not all content is information. Yeah, so there is it's so easy for us today to access information, and we can get very dependent on certain kind of input. Yeah. So I have mentioned a few things around, but one very important that has to do with drishti, you know, the trunk of that poisonous tree that I showed to you, is that of opinions. Yeah? So we have opinions, or we want to have opinions, and in a way we are addicted to opinions. So it would be interesting if you look at, for example, the media. You know, when you are watching news or you are reading the paper, how much of that you access is really information and really facts, or is just the interpretation of somebody giving you their side of things. Yeah. So some of the papers that we call, you know, sort of the liberal media are full of that. Are just full. And I know the particular, you know, I have identified in the past very strongly with left-wing ideologies. But sometimes, to be honest with all of you, if I want facts, if I want information, sometimes I go and read something like the Financial Times, for example. Because there is information, it's something there reliable. It's not, I'm not receiving the opinion of somebody, the interpretation of somebody about reality. So another way of looking at the kleshas is that of biases. Yeah? The wisdom, that wisdom of Akshobhya I was referring to, is a mirror-like wisdom. Yeah? It's like looking at yourself in a mirror. Yeah? So there are no distortions, there are no biases. So if we can transform those distortions, those interpretations that are abundant around us, you know, into clear thinking, we can develop wisdom. We can develop understanding. Yeah. Another thing as well to watch on is ideologies. As I said a moment ago, you know, ideologies are abundant as well, and there can be attachment as well to ideologies. There is a whole section of one of the books that I've been looking at during this series. I have recommended it before, but for those of you who are joining us tonight, is called Know Your Mind from Sangha. And there is a whole section in that book about attachment to ideologies. And actually, I want to read something from that very quickly, because it's very interesting what Bhante says about ideologies. So he talks about how ideologies are established. Yeah. First of all, one has a drishti, a view, representing a certain limited and emotionally negative perspective. One rationalizes this into a philosophical position or ideology, and then one proceeds to become attached to that position, to cling to that ideology. To take a simple example, someone who felt very unsure of himself, inadequate, insecure, might perhaps be drawn to some form of, say, fascist ideology. Embracing that ideology will make him feel more sure of himself. So he will then become more and more attached to it, and more certain in his adherence to it. Yeah. So it's something very interesting about ideologies, because ideologies can boost your confidence. Yeah, you feel very, very certain about your convictions, and you want to try to, you know, to mold the world around you based on that ideology. Yeah. Bhante Sangharachita says something very interesting about that connection between ideology and emotions. Yeah. He says something about negative emotions, which are much more abundant than the positive ones. Negative emotions are much more stronger than positive emotions. Any individual or organization that wants to influence or control people in large numbers in the mass, therefore does so by manipulating negative emotions. The Catholic Church plays upon fear, the Communist Party on hate, capitalism on greed, totalitarian states on feelings of inadequacy and inferiority. One might also say that in times of peace, the state plays more on people's greed, in times of war, on their fear. So any big organization that will have to exert some power on large group of peoples are going to try to play a very basic emotions. So we need to be very careful when we access content, when we access information, what is that we are consuming? And the interesting thing with the ideologies is that if you think that the system that you live in doesn't have an ideology, well, look again. All systems have an ideology. At the heart of the capitalist system, there is an idea. That is a wrong idea, that of private property. So the idea that everything can be transformed into a commodity. Everything can be owned. That's not in line with wisdom. That's not in line with how things really are. But that's something that you need to do. It's probably the work of a lifetime. So I'm just going to say two more things to finish and give some time to the groups. So the other two levels are reflection and compassion. There is probably not much that can be said about reflection and compassion, because it's something that you need to do. So with reflection, you need to create a space. Create a space in order to be able to digest, to understand what is that has been said. What is that you have been listening to? So what I'm saying at the beginning of this talk, I was saying that I'm looking forward, to rest my effort and just be with the fruits of my effort. In a way, I'm going to enter in a mode of reflection, a reflective mode. And then the last level is contemplation. And contemplation probably is something that we can say even less. So contemplation is a process of transformation, of deep transformation of our energies. So something very important about views is that they can be wrong. They are wrong views, but they are also positive views. And I think all of us that engage in one way or another with a spiritual life, we have had a glimpse of reality to some extent. So that's why you are here tonight. So you can have confidence on that. The first talk of this series was entitled A Confident Heart. So the most you experience the truth of the Dharma, you're going to grow in confidence in your endeavors. So just before we go into the groups, and in the way I give Sadie a bit of time to finish organizing the groups, I'm going to read this quote and then I'll finish. And I wanted to recommend this book, sorry, before I do that, because this quote is from that book. So it's called The Art of Reflection from Ratnaguna, another member called Ratnaguna. So he goes very into detail here about the 3 levels of wisdom. And actually he also looks into the whole area of samatha and vipassana, which is something that I mentioned last week. And that area of the dhyanas, how can we cultivate, how can we experience dhyana states or absorption states in our life. So here you go. To arrive at the simplest truth requires years of contemplation, not activity, not reasoning, not calculating, not busy behavior of any kind, not reading, not talking, not making an effort, not thinking, simply bearing in mind what it is that one needs to know. Thank you.